So if you guys have seen my videos before, you know I really don't like to beat around the bush. It's Ariens here, Deluxe 28. This has the AX254, so it's gonna be pretty much the same for all of those 254 engines. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna clean the carburetor because the customer's having an issue where it's shutting off. Once we go ahead and do that, get it apart, we're also gonna make sure that it's getting the right amount of fuel that it needs to be getting to the carburetor from the fuel tank. Because if we're not getting that, of course, it's not gonna run. So, before we know it, this thing's gonna be back in the snow. So, let's dive right on in. So the first thing we're gonna wanna do is remove our run and choke controls. This comes off pretty easy, just pries right up. Sometimes they're stuck, so you gotta force them a bit, but it's okay. And this one will just pull right up. Just put that somewhere safe. So next what we have are the bolts for our muffler guard. There is one in here, and there are two here and here. So that's gonna be a 10 millimeter. We'll go ahead and get those out. And this will go ahead and just pull right up. It can be a little tricky. It can be very tricky. And we have one more bolt here. And this will lift off. So we're gonna remove this cover next, just the left side. And we got bolts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are gonna come out. See, now these are different lengths, so keep an eye on that. We got the short bolts going here, and the longer ones going here. And this whole cover, in theory, will lift up. That'll lift it a good amount of ways and come out. So we do have our primer line down here, which can be a little bit of a pain to get to, but that's gotta come off either from the carburetor or from the bulb. I prefer to take it off from the carburetor. And then we have those two connections there for the kill switch, which are also gonna come off. So we're gonna pull this back. The primer line is gonna come off. Move that clamp. Pull that out. So you might wanna twist this just a little bit. Sometimes these nipples will break, so just be careful with that. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these kill switch wires off. You do have to peel back. So there is a little tab in here that you have to push in from the back side in order to unlock this. We need to push that in and then pull that off. So what we're actually pushing in is this piece right here. We're gonna push it from the back side in order to release it. So we'll push it out and pull that right up. This whole cover can just kind of get pushed to the side or down below. We're gonna wanna make sure that our fuel is off. And we're going to undo our fuel line. Unclamp that. Pull that up. You know, I don't always recommend doing that with pliers. If we're gonna replace the fuel line anyway, then you can, it's no big deal. Sometimes they're so stuck that you can't actually get them off. Got our bolts for our electric starter, 2 Phillips head. You can really just let that hang. And we have the knob for our fuel switch. We'll pry that off. We have our bolt. Remove all these. And then this cover will pop off. And then our fuel tank will pull up. And we have our 1 8mm bolt right here. So once we got our 8 out, we can go ahead and we can remove this here. We can remove the nuts for the carburetor. This will kind of pull out with the carburetor a little bit. You can flex this plate a little bit, but not too much. Go ahead and pull that up. And that can just stay out of the way for now. So we're gonna undo our linkage here. If we pull the carburetor out a little bit, we can actually get to that a little bit easier. That's just gonna pop right up. And then our spring is going to come out with it. And then we have the carburetor removed. Now it's time to clean it. So we're actually gonna go ahead and remove this drain, get the fuel out of there before we start taking it apart and make a mess. Remove bottom bolt, pull that off, see what everything looks like. You know, in here it really doesn't look too bad. We might have a jet clog just a little bit. We could still have a fueling issue. We're gonna go through this carburetor for the sake of going through the carburetor, even though it does look pretty clean. So we're gonna do here, this pin comes out. Sometimes they're a little bit stuck. You might have to grab a pair of pliers. And then our float assembly with the needle comes out. We're gonna need a flathead screwdriver. Take this jet out inside here. Dump that on out. We're gonna remove our throttle stop. And this air valve comes out. It just pries right up. Then we have a carburetor ready to be cleaned. Sometimes we might need to take out this Welch plug, but in this case, I'm able to actually get the straw of the carburetor cleaner in here and spray it in and out, because that actually exits through these tiny little holes in the side here inside the throttle body. So we're gonna go ahead and spray out all these holes. We've got one there, one there. We're gonna spray through our inlet, and that's gonna come out right here. We're also gonna spray the opposite way in case there's anything in there too. And right here, that's going to lead into our plug there. Our plug hole, you can probably see it right there on the right side. And then you're gonna try and get in here with the straw and reach in there and out, which we are able to do. So let's get this all cleaned up. Just make sure any holes in here, spray them out. And it really does a number on your glove. So this right here is our pilot jet. And this piece right here is responsible for a lot of the time that you have a surging issue. Idle up, idle down, idle up, idle down. If you're getting surging, this is most likely the problem. Or you're having a clogging issue in one of these veins in here through this hole. Now that's all fine and dandy, clean it out, but there's only so much that fits in here that's small enough because that hole is very, very tiny. So I have these little micro drills that I use in order to clean these out. So we can go ahead and stick that through there, that little hole right there. You don't actually want to make this bigger, you just want to make sure it's clear. And that one fits in just right. So go ahead and spray that out. We're going to want to clean all these jets out. Best thing to do is just get a carburetor cleaning kit, poke all these holes out. It's really dirty. This one really isn't too bad. Go ahead and spray that out one way and then the other. I like to put my finger over this side so it actually blows out of all these little holes here. And then blow it through. And this here, our main jet, same thing. Go ahead and poke, clean that out. Same thing, spray it on out. Other way also. Clean this bowl out, spray that out. You do want to be careful with getting any of the carburetor cleaner on any of these rubber gaskets. It does cause it to swell, which could be an issue trying to put it back in later. So just keep that in mind. So now that this carburetor is cleaned, we're going to go ahead and reinstall everything. So we're going to do our float with our needle. We're going to put our little pin in there. Make sure you have really clean hands doing this also, because any tiny little piece of anything can and will get caught exactly where you don't want it. This emulsion tube we're going to put in. This side, no matter what carburetor you're doing, always goes down. It always goes in. When I say down, I really mean up, but it goes in this way. And then you will see it through the throttle body poking in there. And you can see that it's that piece right there that we can move up and down, because it always sticks into the throttle body. So we're gonna go ahead and put that jet in, screw that down. We go ahead and put our gasket down. See, and this one actually shrank a little bit. Stretch it out just a hair, be easy. And there we go, that fits in there perfect. So now we're gonna go ahead and put our bowl back on. Now keep in mind, we do want this towards the outside of the machine in case we ever need to drain it. So that's going to go on with this inlet is towards the inside of the machine. So we're gonna put this towards the outside of the machine. I'm gonna go ahead and put that bolt on in there. If that's dirty, you're gonna wanna clean that too. Our drain will go in, turn that on up. Now for our pilot jet. This one, sometimes you might have to put a little tiny bit of grease on this bottom and top O-ring in order to get it in there correctly. If it's going in there rough, you really don't want to force it because that can rip the O-ring. And that goes in just like that. Push it down. This one went in nice and easy, so we don't need grease on that. We're gonna wanna put this back in. This is our idle stop. And a good rule of thumb, if you forget where it was when you took it out, about halfway onto that pilot jet is a good spot to have it flush. So just like that, that should be okay. So we're gonna go ahead and drain this tank. So it appears we have a delivery issue. That is usually not quite enough. So we're gonna go ahead and remove this petcock to see why we're not getting the right flow. Just loosen that. Our fuel line will have to come off. Nice twist. And this whole thing will unscrew. So this nut here is just a locking nut. Once you loosen that, the whole petcock will loosen up. And you can just unscrew that. So we're gonna go ahead and spray this out. And this fuel line isn't going back on there. We're gonna change it. I'm gonna get all that fuel out of that tank. And the filter on the end of this actually fell off. So now we gotta try and dig it out. So we got out our filter piece, which this actually is supposed to be in here. For some reason it wasn't. Got loose somewhere down the line. So we can spray that out also. Make sure that's clean. And go ahead and reinstall this. And we want our petcock pointing that way, towards where the carburetor is, of course. Go ahead and tighten this up. Not too tight, just snug. These can and will break. So if you have the old fuel line, you can match the length. If you don't, cut it a little bit longer than you think you need. That's really the best rule of thumb. Otherwise, if it's too short, we got to redo this whole step. So we're going to go ahead and put this on there before we get the tank on, just because it's going to be a bit easier. And don't forget your clamps. This clamp we can put on now. Just run it up a little bit, and we'll go back to the machine. Make sure your gasket's still good. If it's ripped, you need a new one. So we can go ahead and reinstall our carburetor. Same way how we took it out. That line goes in, and then our spring gets connected to the other little hole, like so. Our plastic cover will loop around, and that will go down on there. Pull your carburetor out just a little bit to get this in, and it'll slide right on. 8mm bolt. Now our carburetor nuts. So our fuel tank can go back on with our line routed up this way. And it's gonna end up curling down. You can go ahead and put that on. And make sure your fuel line is clamped. Our cover here will slip on. 4 bolts. So now it might be a good idea to keep these all just a little bit loose, because when we go to put in these bolts over here, you might not always want to line up correctly, exactly how you want. So we're just going to keep these just a tiny bit loose. So we're going to go ahead and put our lines back on our cover. Just one right there, one right there. It doesn't matter which one these go to. This just grounds it out so it shuts it off. So now our primer line, connect to that. Make sure that's clamped. And go ahead and reinstall this cover. Remember, all the way up, over that choke and throttle. And bring it on down. So we will go ahead and put these bolts in. We don't want to tighten anything down yet. Same with these ones, we just want to get them started. We want to slip on our muffler guard. That one bolt that went in here. So go ahead and get all these bolts in, the 2 in the back, the 1 in the front here. So we got all those bolts in, you can go ahead and tighten everything up. Put our electric starter adapter back on. We want to get our throttle and choke controls back on. That's the wrong way. It's got to turn this way just a little bit. Now our choke. Don't forget your fuel knob. You can turn that on. Once we get this knob on, that is our last step. We're going to go ahead and put some fuel in here, see how it runs.